Driving instructor in Essex was rescued by two members of the public after getting submerged in floodwater. The driver was stuck in the car, surrounded by high water, but the fire service at the scene were unable to help until a specialist crew arrived because it was too deep, although they were monitoring things continuously.
So YouTuber Jamie Price and his wife Danielle were there and felt they had to step in and help guide the driver to safety and out of the freezing water. Well, the heroic rescuers, or reckless rescuers, whichever way you want to look at it, Jamie and Danielle Price, join us now. Very good morning to you. Is that the car still there in the water behind you?
It is, yeah. That's the driving instructor's vehicle that we pulled him out of. OK, now, this has divided opinion this morning, both of you, because, of course, the driver in the car actually had emergency services there. There were firefighters standing by. They say that they were awaiting the arrival of two specialist units equipped with the necessary gear and expertise for such scenarios. Were you reckless in stepping in to help, or did you feel like you didn't have a choice? I don't think we were reckless personally. Although the firefighters do a fantastic job, including the ones that turn up, they're very limited with resources, and obviously that was apparent here. We had two fire crews turn up to help the guy, but their hands were tied. Once they walked away, after speaking to them, the guy that you see on the camera, he walked away. I was kind of shocked by that. I thought, you're leaving the guy in the car, and he's submerged up to the chest, as you can see in some of the videos. And right behind us, behind the camera there, they were a good sort of 60, 70 metres away. So I stood there and I thought, I can't leave the guy. I'm going to try the basics. So I pulled the rear handle, realised it was locked, and I said to the guy, you know, try your handle, which is what he done, and that's how we got the door open. It was quite simple to get in, but obviously with the risks and stuff for the fire service, they're just not allowed to.
And the reason that he hadn't got himself out, do you think that was because he was already in shock when the water had got that far up the car?
I think there's a couple of factors. Obviously, once you're in the water, the force of the water against the door, it's really, really hard to push the door open. It did take myself and the gentleman together to get the door open. But also, as though, like you said, in a state of shock, and when you're in a situation like this, you don't behave and you don't act in the way that it's easy to talk about now. Afterwards, you go, I would have done this and I would have done that, and had that been me, I would have just opened the door. Until you find yourself in that situation, you really don't know how you're going to act.
But Jamie and Danielle, you are not one-off aiders here. You do this very regularly. You've been to hundreds of incidents like this, and you make films of them when you go. How did you find out about this particular incident?
So what actually happened with this incident is there was a weather warning, and obviously this is something that we look for when we're doing filming for YouTube. We try and kind of follow where the weather's going to be. It's instigated by the weather. We need a bit of rain in order to sort of film the floods. So we knew this area was going to be flooded, and of course it's kind of a bit of our local patch where we do a lot of content. And we were actually a bit further up the road, and the fire service come past. We'd already checked this place 5 o'clock in the morning, that particular morning, and see that no one was in here. We checked to make sure the road was shut off. So behind us, because the guy actually came in this way, although the car's facing the other way, he did come in this direction. But he'd driven past a road closed sign, an access only sign, and 2 flood signs before he even entered the water. So that's why we were quite surprised that actually someone went in, because to me, and most other people, it perhaps might have been obvious. But obviously the twist in the story here was he was actually a driving instructor, which makes things a little bit more different. He
wasn't very road aware. We had this response from one of our viewers, Canny on Twitter. I'm actually an on-call firefighter. If the person's in no immediate danger, then action is to monitor until water specialists arrive. And if the situation escalates, they would have responded instantly without a second's notice. The chance of underwater hazards is massive. And other people say that the danger is you go in, against the advice of the fire service, you get into trouble, and then suddenly they've got to rescue 3 people rather than 1 person. Did you actually have a conversation with them? Did you say to them, why aren't you helping? And what do they say back to you, the firefighters who are on the scene?
So the firefighters, obviously, we didn't speak to them directly there. We spoke back at the fire engine. We said, you know, kind of what... Because they were standing around, and again, not intentionally. These guys are not lazy. These are firefighters. These are the best of the best in most situations. But because the local station doesn't have the equipment to deal with this, which to me doesn't make sense. I'm here a few times a week, some weeks. Sometimes I'll pull 6, 7 cars out the same day. And obviously, if I'm not here, it would be a fire brigade job. And I'm not standing in for a fire brigade or trying to be a fireman. That's certainly not what we try to do. It was just because we've done this before at this particular spot, I knew everything mapped out underneath the foot. I already had my waders on because I was filming up around the area. It was kind of a little bit right place, right time, and perhaps a little bit of stubbornness from me. But ultimately, you know, when you're in that situation, life is far more important. That man's life, to me, and I know some people might not agree, but his life at that particular moment was more important than mine. I felt like he was at more risk than I was.
Yeah.
And that's why I decided to try and help.
Well, look, I think a lot of people instinctively might have done what you do, or what you did. But as you say, you know, we're talking about a pretty courageous band of people, the best of the best, firefighters, who put themselves into dangers every day none of us could imagine going into. So let's hear from Jim Palmer, who is the Assistant Director of Response at Essex Country Fire and Rescue.
We understand people's concerns following the coverage of the incident that's gone out today. But I want to reassure everyone that if the driver's life was at immediate risk, we would have absolutely acted. However, the situation was a lot more stable than it appears. We had specialist water rescue crews en route, and it was safest for the driver to remain in the vehicle.
Danielle, it sounds to me like you guys are there often. There's obviously a problem at that particular part of the county. Do people just drive in and into the floodwater thinking it's shallow? Why is it a persistent problem?
I'm not really sure. I think when you're in your car, you're in such a bubble, and you follow your sat nav, and you don't look in your surrounding areas. Like, this whole street is surrounded by signs and stuff, so it is a common problem. But again, we can't save everyone.
Yeah.
Well, as I say, there are a huge number of people on both sides of the argument. Jemima says, going into the water where you don't know what's beneath the surface is dangerous. Pickle says, had the fireman gone in and ended up with them and the driver being washed away and killed, people would have blamed the crew.
Colin, those firefighters bottled it. Any normal human being would have tried to help. Well done to those people. So there are people saying, well done, and other people saying you potentially put yourselves and the firefighters at risk. So divided opinion on this one. Yeah,
well, Jamie and Danielle, I'm sure the driver is grateful that you got him out. I hope he's recovering from shock.
He's probably doing a driving lesson as we speak. Let's hope he sees signs and obeys them this time.
But yes, don't take the risk of driving.
You can see it's very well signposted on my right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you for getting up so early to come on the programme.
Thanks for having us.